Pretty much as long as people have been using glass in boats, some of that glass is broken and washed up on the beach. And for about as long as glass has been washing up on the beach, people have been collecting it, just because it's pretty or to use in art and jewelry. Unfortunately for collectors and artists today, we're using and breaking less glass. There's less and less beach glass out there. So what do you do if you can't find the beach glass you want to use in your projects? What do you do if you live 1,000 miles from the nearest ocean? Well, if you've got a couple of days and some fairly available tools, you can make your own. To make your own tumbled beach glass, first, collect glass. Then safely break the glass. Next, wear down or abrade the glass. Then you can choose interesting pieces out of the load and use them for your projects. The nice thing about making your own beach glass is that you have some freedom and control in terms of what kind of glass you end up with. You can really use just about any kind of glass as long as it's not too thin. Remember that you're going to be abrading off some of the glass, so if it's already as thin or thinner than you want, that glass isn't going to work. Bottles come in a range of colors. Clear, brown, and green are pretty easy to get. I've also seen a fair amount of blue recently. If you're looking for other colors, you may need to be more creative. If you look into some thrift store glassware or know someone who makes stained glass, then you have a chance to get those really interesting colors that way. The biggest thing is finding glass that can be something interesting when you're done. Keep your eye out for unusual colors and shapes. But remember, you might want to do a practice run before you use that really cool piece of glass you find. Usually, breaking glass is easy. But breaking glass safely and the way you want can be more challenging. One of the biggest issues is controlling the bits of shrapnel that will want to fly everywhere. It's a good idea to have a way to confine the glass and to find a place to break your glass that's relatively easy to clean up. Somewhere kids and pets won't be playing. That way we can keep glass fragments out of hands, feet, paws, noses, and mouths. We also want to make sure you are safe. Safe shoes, hand protection, and eye protection are a must. And preferably, you'll wear long pants and long sleeves that will protect your skin from flying glass. I usually make a point of washing my glass breaking clothes separately from other clothes, just to help keep glass shards from getting anywhere I don't want them. You want strong and heavy tools to break your glass. Just throwing a bottle into a bucket might break it, but probably not as much as you want, or in the way you want. Generally, we want to work from large to small. Something big and heavy like a sledgehammer to do the initial breaking, and then something smaller to customize and shape the glass. If you've got flint knapping tools and experience, you can work fairly detailed and make some pretty cool pieces. Or you can just go for random breakage, which is more accurate to real beach glass. If you've got the right tools, you could use diamond or silicon carbide blades to cut preformed shapes. It's kind of cheating, but it works. Okay, now we're going to do the actual breaking. Go ahead and chuck your glass into the bucket. Don't load it so full that things are going to be problematic or fly out, but you want a fair amount of glass in there. Don't worry about it breaking on the way in. If it breaks, we want that to happen. If it doesn't, that's okay too, because we're about to bring in the big persuader. Remember, if you want more control over shape, you're going to want to cut or bring in flint knapping tools later. The hammer is going to do the hard work of our breaking, and is really helpful for big things like wine bottle bottoms. Once you've worked the glass down with the big hammer, you can choose pieces to refine with other tools if you want, or just refine things down with the hammer. The finer tools give control. The big hammer makes random pieces that are more like natural beach glass. We want pieces that are just a little bigger than what we want in the finished piece. Our abrading will take the glass down the rest of the way. We also want a mix of sizes and shapes. Some bigger stuff to add weight, some smaller pieces that can get into crevices and details. It matters. In nature, this is the step that takes the longest time. We can do it much faster. My personal preference for tumbling beach glass is a 3-pound rotary tumbler with an older barrel that I've retired from rock tumbling. The glass tends to chew up the barrel more than rock tumbling does, and it's a good practice to separate operations into different barrels. I would definitely avoid cross-contaminating my metal cleaning and polishing barrels with glasswork. You could also use a vibratory tumbler, but vibratory tumblers operate a little bit differently, so if you do, you'll need to adjust these instructions to fit your machine. First, we're going to load the barrel 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full with glass. Next, we load in loose silicon carbide abrasive. I use 80 grit or a 60-90 split grit. For the purpose of making beach glass, I wouldn't go finer than 100 grit because we want fairly heavy abrasion. For my tumbler, I add 4 tablespoons of grit. If you're using a different size tumbler, you want to adjust the amount up or down to fit your machine. Add water until it's almost to the top of the glass load. Then put on your lid assembly. Make sure it's good and tight. When you're putting the barrel on the tumbler, make sure the motor is running before you put the barrel on. If you try to start the tumbler with the barrel already in place, you're going to break a lot of belts. The tumbler should run with this load for at least 2 days. I usually check it after 2, but run it for 3 or 4 days until I get the level of abrasion I want. Okay, your tumbler has run for 2 or 3 or 4 days. You've tested a piece and it's about as abraded as you want it. Now it's time to empty our tumbler and find our goodies. One of the biggest things when we're emptying the tumbler is that you never put the water and sludge from the tumbler down your pipes. It's essentially cement, and it will cause you problems. This is why I always use a bucket. If you have environmental restrictions on dumping water in your area, you might want to check with the local government about how to dispose of the waste from your tumbler. Usually nothing in your tumbler is going to be really toxic, at least not from a glass operation, but it's still not something you want in your mouth or in your pipes. You also want a way to separate the glass from the discharge. A cheap strainer works just fine. If you work with soft stone like turquoise or malachite, you want a plastic one, but the wire ones will work just fine for our glass. Pour your glass and your discharge into the strainer. Then go ahead and clean up your barrel. Even if you work with just one process per barrel, you want to get the barrel fairly clean so you'll have a good seal for next time. Then go ahead and rinse through your glass. After your glass is rinsed, you want to move it to a sorting area. This is what I use. It's just an old cafeteria tray lined with paper towels. I do it this way for easy cleanup. Wipe down the tray, throw out the paper towels, and you're done. This way I can work with a variety of grits and projects without having to worry about cross-contamination. Be careful when you put the glass on the tray. There's no point in breaking anything at this point. We're going to sort the glass looking for 2 things: broken pieces that need to be reprocessed, and cool pieces that we'll use in making projects. The remainder can be used for ornamental things or processed for other projects. Cut, rebroken, retumbled, whatever you feel like doing. Okay, here are some interesting pieces that I'm going to use in future projects. This video is being written and shot in conjunction with part 1 of a book that I'm writing on making abraded glass jewelry. I'm planning on doing a follow-up video to show what I did with the glass, and the book will show not only what I did, but how I did it. For more information on me and what I write and do, check out my YouTube channel and check out my blog at wordsmeanstuff.wordpress.com. And thanks for watching.